Welcome to Everyday People. Ray, I don't know your last name, but thank you so much for agreeing to sit down with me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Vaibhav. How are you?
I'm wonderful. And it's good. It's a Sunday morning. I feel energized to do this. So we'll start with our first standard question, which is who are you? What do you do? And what's your current side project?
Awesome. My name is Ray. My pronouns are they and them. I am currently pursuing my master's in counseling psychology. I am an aspiring trauma informed sex therapist. I think that's sort of where I want to dabble in. And my side project slash hobby, uh, being a tattoo artist. Yeah, yeah, I'm a tattoo artist.
Awesome. So there's two different things now that you mentioned, which is the counseling psychology part and then the tattoo part. I want to talk about
Mhm.
your master's degree first, if that's okay. You mentioned that you want to
Yeah.
be a sex therapist and specializing in trauma. Any particular reason why you've chosen to do something so heavy?
Other than personal experiences, I think that sex is still like a really big taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's talked about, in a lot of like vague assumptions. There's a lot of like, like people make, I don't know, they make a lot about like just the nature of relationships, and people aren't ever really, I think, heard. Their side of the story is not heard. Their experiences around like sex and relationships. There's a lot of assumptions are made, and so I don't know. Yeah, I think I just want to create a space where people feel like they're not judged. There's no bias, especially in queer circles. I think as a queer like sex enthusiast myself, I have found a lot of like judgment in spaces, and so I want to be just I don't know a very yeah, I want to be aware. I want to be informed of all like the natures of how trauma can affect people in their relationships,
Right.
and make sure that I can be sort of that safe space for people to share. Um, and yeah, it's I think ultimately can be really liberating when people can connect, with their bodies, understand their bodies and their minds, and how that relates to somebody else when it comes to like connecting with somebody else, right? Because relationships can also look so dynamic, so things can change. And I think that's not really, I don't know, I feel like I've not seen it like very much accounted for, or like people can make a lot of like snap judgments about people. So yeah, I think I'm rambling, but like I think I just want to be that safe space for people.
You're not
Yeah.
rambling at all. You're making a lot of sense. Um, so I'm not queer. I have queer friends. Um, uh, when you talk about a relationship with your body, is it more complicated being queer, or is it something that you find that even straight cis het people have, like, because I have a problem with my own like body and how I look and everything else. How, as far as just talking about degrees of complication, what have you found to be the difference between cis het and queer bodies?
That's an interesting question. Firstly, thank you for sharing, like being vulnerable and sharing that. I wouldn't go out on a leap and say like, queer people have it like worse. I mean, I think societally there's a lot more judgment, there's a lot more confusion, there's not as much just uh, socialization to be queer. Right? We learn both queer people, cis people, like cishet people learn how to perform gender in a certain way right from when we're very young. So I think like body dysmorphia, um, and feeling out of place with like your own body can happen to anybody. I do think that because there's not as much support, there's not as much discussion around like how to be queer or how to feel queer. Um, a lot of queer people are just navigating it for themselves, and they have to find that community sort of for themselves and build that safe space for themselves. Um, so I think, yeah, relationships with bodies when you don't have like or you don't have somebody to like look up to, you don't have literature around to be able to just gauge, like how to make sense of how you're feeling. I think it can be a lot more daunting for queer people. Um, and I don't know. I also at the same time, like, I don't want to dismiss cishet people having like body issues, because there is a whole capitalist society out there that is saying, how bodies should be and how bodies need to move. And I think that yeah, it removes a lot of agency, whether you're queer or not.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know that I, want to quantify it necessarily, but like, I do think that in times it can be like more difficult to navigate for queer people.
So, if you don't mind me asking, like, just if you could give me a little bit of how you personally navigated over the years. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 27.
27. Okay. I'm 31. And just wanted to understand, like, your journey into understanding, first of all, your queerness, but also then navigating that a little bit, just so that we can get that story out there and people can understand what it's like for somebody to discover that they're queer, and then how that goes along.
Yeah, we'll be sitting here for like 6 hours if I sit and start from the beginning, but I'll give you like the short version. So I am non-binary. I have come to realize this in my third year of undergrad, which was about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So ever since I was a kid, I didn't ascribe to being called like little girl, or like, oh, this is my daughter, my like girl baby, whatever. It made me really uncomfortable. I remember this like just as a kid only. And so I was always like what they would call like a tomboy and stuff, like hang around a lot of guys, play sports and things, very masculine presenting as a kid. And then there was a whole period of coming to India. I grew up in the States, and there was a whole period of coming to India and being socialized again by like girls around me about how I should be, how I need to act, what girls do, what it's like to be cool, that high school sort of setting when you're a teenager and like, bullies have influence on you and things like that. So yeah, that was the first half of like gender in a sense. And then I came to the States again for my undergrad. And there in my third year, I like started hearing people. I used to work at this thing called the Cross Cultural Center. And there were a lot of queer people just around me. So there was lots of like theys and thems and she theys and he theys, like all of these like pronouns and things floating around, and like people presenting how they want to with like, see, like at that time, masculine people like wearing feminine clothing, and like, there was no gender sort of influence in that sense, at least what it looked like to me. And so at first I was just like a silent observer, and I was like, okay, I really like how folks are presenting, and like just hearing tidbits of conversation in things like gender euphoria and gender dysphoria made me really curious about what these terms like mean. And so I took some feminist studies classes, some gender studies classes in my university. Started reading up on a lot of like queer history, and realized that there was a very long history of like how people have felt incongruent with their bodies, and incongruent with how they present, how they are perceived by society, like, in terms of their gender. And it debunked a lot of things for me. At first, I thought like, I thought transness only looked a certain way, whether it was like, assigned female to male or assigned male to female, and like didn't know about the nuances of like gender queer, gender fluid, non-binary. So then I discovered that, and then I had always felt like uncomfortable with the she, her pronouns. So then I asked my friends to just try like switching it up with they. It was really just like an experiment. I was like, just refer to me as they and like see how that feels. And they immediately made the switch. Like I think that was the biggest sort of, I don't know, like push to feel affirmed in my gender. The fact that they were just like, okay, yeah, that's sure, we can do that. And immediately started like they them pronouns for me. And that felt right. Like it just felt correct. So I was like, okay, this is great. And then I decided to change my name as well. And again, same process. Like I just asked my friends, I was like, can you just call me Ray? Like, let's see how this feels. And it took me about like maybe a year and a half for like Ray, they, them to like settle as like a personhood for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, telling people that like this is my name and these are my pronouns at first was very like, oh my god, am I taking away space? Like, am I really, am I really trans? Am I really like non-binary? Am I allowed to take up this space? So there was a lot of back and forth. But then as I did it more and more, it felt right. People were accepting me. I felt like I was weeding out sort of the people that like didn't accept it or didn't think that it was right. Like they sort of just left my life, and like the people that were meant to stay sort of stayed. And that's just what's been happening since then. Like I've gravitated to people that have been accepting and finding my own community now. So yeah, I think now it's still, a journey, like gender in terms of presentation and what it looks like, how I feel every day, like that changes. But now I can finally like sit here and say like, okay, I am non-conforming, I am gender fluid, like non-binary. I'm Ray and my pronouns are they and them, and I can say that without feeling like, oh my god, am I saying this right? So yeah, now here I am.
And how does Bangalore factor into this? Like, how has been your experience in the Bangalore queer circles? Because I myself have seen now that there is actually a fairly large queer circle in Bangalore. Like, if you want to find community, it's out there. So, how has Bangalore been for
Yeah,
you?
stellar. Being back in Bangalore, I'm also a Kannadiga, so I feel a lot like more rooted to Bangalore and the culture and the people. And 6th to 11th grade, like it's a familiar space as well. But the queer circle has been like fantastic. I feel like in the States, there's just like because queerness is open, there is also like a way to be queer, if that makes sense. Like you're either, the Patagonia wearing like Berkeley queer, or like there's just different, I don't know, like presets already on how to be queer. And I feel like here everybody is like doing it their own way, and everybody is able to find community that's accepting of like the fluidity of it, if that makes sense. Like as changing names, figuring out gender, like things like that. I feel like at least since I've been here, it's been a lot more open and accepting to do that here. And I do think like as like there's a big queer community in Bangalore, but also like everybody kind of knows everybody through somebody or the other. So sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's difficult to navigate. But I don't know. I really feel at home with the community here. There's obviously a lot more that I need to like learn, and a lot more people to meet. But I feel like there's no blueprint on like how you're supposed to express yourself here. And I did feel like that there was some way to be queer, like in the States more. So yeah, I don't know. I really feel like at home. I feel like I belong in the Bangalore queer circle. So that's felt really nice.
Good. I'm glad that you found somewhere that you're feeling included. I've been to just one event, one queer event, and for me, I think the biggest thing there was like how many people had colored hair, because I myself had colored hair for 3.5 years, and so I just felt, oh look, finally I can feel like people around me are also doing the same thing, because for a long time, people like in my circles, people were like, why do you have colored hair? Why do you like experiment with your hair
Yeah,
color and this and that? So it was just good to see other
I feel
people
like
doing the same thing.
with the like the colored hair, like I don't know, there's yeah, people are just so like loud and out and proud here, and I know like to be every single like queer person that I meet is just like so different and like so unique. And yeah, it gives me a lot of it gives me a lot of euphoria, honestly, just being here. Just seeing like befriending other people and like knowing their own journeys and stuff. And even not just being at like there's so many queer markets and things. I feel like that also is something that I didn't really see in the States as much. Like there's Satrangi Mela that happens at Indiranagar Social, and like Maya Bazaar, and like so many there's so many different like gatherings. There's like queer organizations that like bring people together and stuff. Like I don't know. I love it. Being
I'm sorry, I
like I'm
did.
a part of it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I thought I didn't catch that last part, but you said you love it and you felt like you're a part of it, right? There's a little bit of disturbance with your Wi-Fi, so
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. Like, I think I'm catching most of this like 99%
Okay.
of this conversation
Hopefully
is
it
being caught.
comes.
As long as the recording is okay. That's all I really care about.
Yeah.
So,
I hope it'll all be okay. Do you edit this afterwards, or like,
yes.
you like find snippets and things? Oh, okay. 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 Cool.
So yeah, I usually just cut out any major disturbances and like go through the whole thing once again and just make sure that like it can be edited a little
Okay.
coherently. I think I will find that
Okay.
because I can hear you clearly, that means that probably the recording is also going to be clear. That's the main thing.
Okay. All right. I hope so.
So transitioning to the other topic, which is tattooing. You have
Yes.
tattoos, I have tattoos, and you're a tattoo
Oh,
artist
love
yourself.
it. What's your tattoo?
Mine is a few different things that I've picked up over the
Oh,
years.
the whole sleeve. Wow, fun.
Yeah. I'm actually looking
Wow.
for stuff to be added to this later. Right now, haven't really thought about it, but I have ideas for like stuff all over my body eventually. So,
That's awesome. Let me know if you'd like to get one.
yeah, sure. When I saw that you have an event coming up with, I have another guest that I've reached out to, Ayushi, and you and Ayushi are doing a tattooing event together. Somewhere I saw on their Instagram. Anyway,
Are we? Are you sure? Okay. I don't know this.
Nazar Bhattu. Oh, well, never mind. But I saw a poster on somebody's Instagram saying that Get Poked by Ray is going to be tattooing sometime soon.
Oh. Um,
Or was it Bobby Seligman?
okay. I did a couple of events. It was Meme Saab.
Maybe it was Meme
I was
Saab.
at Maya Bazaar with Meme Saab. Yeah, that
It
was
was Meme Saab,
2 months back. Yes, yeah. I did tattoo. Like we were at Maya Bazaar together. Like Meme Saab did the first day and then I did the second day of Maya Bazaar. Yeah.
And so, how'd you get into tattooing? When was your first when did you get your first tattoos? And then when did you draw your first tattoos on somebody else? Like, how'd you get into that? Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So before I was like, just give like a trigger warning of self-harm and suicidal ideation. So when I, like a lot of people in the pandemic, a lot of people were like extremely just depressed and like cooped up in their homes and stuff. I was dealing with a lot of family issues at that time as well. So yeah, I was at an extremely like low point in 2020. And so I was thinking about just like harming myself and like taking my life and stuff like that. And then my friend sort of came over one day just with needles, and they were like, you know what, let's do this instead. And so that sort of became like an up for me. And every time I would get a tattoo as well, my first tattoo was when I was, and I remember it like hurting, but like I liked it. So it became, so when I like, when I started tattooing myself, it became like a primarily as an outlet for self-harm. And the first couple of tattoos, I think they like faded, but they're like just like these finger tats. I just like did them on myself. And at that time I was using like non-toxic like pen ink. So just watched a couple of YouTube videos and stuff, and like we were just really just figuring it out all on our own. And that continued for 3 years, just me tattooing on myself. And then I came to Bangalore in 2021. And that continued for about a year and a half. Yeah. And then I came to Bangalore in 2021. And then my friends were like, oh, wow, you tattoo. Like, I'm down to be your guinea pig. So people were just like, my friends were just giving me their skin as like experiment. And I was not charging or anything. Like, I didn't think that I was, I come from absolutely no art background or anything. So I had no formal experience in like drawing or sketching or anything like that. So, yeah, people just like my friends, 2 or 3 of them just came to me with their ideas. And I started off as a hand poke artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I still do hand poke. But yeah, so when they started like coming to me with their ideas, we would like get together and I would just ink them small designs here and there. And yeah, and then they were the really big encouragers. I feel like everything that I do in life has been like pushed by my friends. So they were very monumental in telling me to sort of take up tattooing as like just like a side hobby. And yeah, I since then have just been, I started a page, I started Get Poked, just to document like all of the tattoos that I've done. And have now been following a lot of tattoo artists, have had the luck to meet a lot of tattoo artists in Bangalore, in India. Um, and I don't have like a particular style as such. Still have, like not taken an art course or like a drawing course or anything. It's more just like ideas that come from friends or like come, from my head, and I just kind of like sketch them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I started like doing gigs. That also kind of just like happened. I think actually Meme Sub was monumental in that happening. They were the first one to ask me to come Deluxe Thali, which was I think a couple of months ago. And yeah, then I think I kind of like people sort of knew who I was a little bit, and I got to do two more. And that was really exciting. But primarily, I tattoo people because I love the feeling that it gives them. Um, I, especially for queer people, like I have seen a lot of, again, like the self harm outlet is tattooing for some queer folks that I've tattooed and stuff. And so I primarily do it for that. Like, I don't see it as a business. I don't see it as something that like I want to necessarily monetize off of. To see it a way to one just grow as an artist. I think that it's on the one side there is like psychology, and I love therapy, and I love like learning about that. But then I also love like the fact I create something and people want that on their bodies. Like that's the biggest feeling of like, oh my god, that's so unreal for me. And now now I think I'm just learning about little like different tattoo styles, and like seeing how I can take that up, and practicing on myself, practicing on like fake skin and stuff, like learning different tattoos and shading and this and that. I'm like learning. I feel like I'm learning how to draw and I'm learning how to tattoo like parallelly at the same time. And it's now I feel like it's just been me. I mean, I really, really love the art. I love meeting other people in the community, learning from them, being able to do things like tattoo trade. Like I give you a tattoo and you give me one. Like that. That's so awesome to me. So yeah, I think my MO for tattooing hasn't really changed, but I have grown rather as like an artist, and I feel like I'm continuing to grow and continuing to learn within the tattooing space. Yeah, it's been a wonderful journey so far.
What has been your experience as far as like, you said you're not a professional tattoo artist and you don't want to monetize it, but your friends have been asking you to put stuff on their bodies. Like when I first started getting tattoos, which was like my first chest tattoo here, I thought like, I have a very specific plan of stuff I want on my body because it's going to be permanent. And then once you get your first or second tattoo, you realize, okay, it doesn't need to be that serious, and you
You're
can
like,
just.
never mind. Yeah.
So how has that experience been like as far as like people getting their first tattoos on via you, or like people being like very specific or not specific about stuff on their bodies? What has that experience been for you?
Yeah, I think I have done maybe like two or three first tattoos. And those were specific. They wanted like they had an idea of what they wanted, and we sort of conceptualized it together. Um, as far as non-first tattooers, some people do come up with like, their own customs, and I love doing that. But there are other people that, like I said, like they want my art. Like I have flash designs, and they're like, I love that. And every time that somebody says that, it's so like I double triple question them. I'm like, really, like you like it? There's a lot of doubt that sort of comes up with that. But yeah, I feel like when people come to me and they say like, I really like this design, like, do whatever you want. You have the freedom, the artistic freedom. That's extremely daunting, but extremely exciting for me. And I, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there's like, it's been like one more than the other. I feel like I've gotten an equal amount of like custom tattoos versus like my own designs. But it's also sort of changed the way that I also get tattoos, because I feel like at first I was also in this boat of like, okay, I need to plan everything on my body, like how it's supposed to look. But then I really like a certain flash design from an artist, and I really like their art style. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm like, fuck it. Like, I just want their work on my body. And so now I'm still very unplanned about the tattoos on my body, but I more like to collect different artists' work on my body, and if they feel the same, then like get paid. But yeah, I don't know. I can say like, yeah, it's been like a mixed bag, and it more so just inspires me to, when people say that they want like my flash designs, so it's very validating. And yeah, I don't know. I guess like there's always been like both types of people: the ones that are really planned and like want a specific custom tattoo about it, and then there's like people that are like, let me just flip through your book and see what you've got and get it spontaneously. So yeah, I've had great experiences on both sides.
Wonderful. I'm hoping one day to get something like a flash tattoo done. I have space for it on my body. I know like where I'm okay with somebody just putting anything that they've created rather than something that specifically comes from me. I'll move on to the fourth question. Like I have a loose structure in my head about how these interviews go. The fourth section is always the advice section, and here I ask people for three pieces of advice based on the conversation that we've had so far. So I could ask you something really serious, or I could ask you something like a little more relaxed. What would you prefer?
Oh, I don't know that I'll be able to deliver on the serious advice, but sure, let's try. Yeah, what is your serious question?
For somebody who, for cishet people especially, who are looking to be better allies, what would be three pieces of advice you would give to them to get started with integrating into the community?
Um, Let me think about this. I would say number one, listen to queer voices. Follow queer artists. Follow queer like politicians. Follow queer activists. Get your information from queer sources. That's number one. Number two, don't listen to queer voices to respond and form your own judgments, because queer people are not a monolith. Not everybody is going to say their opinion and it's going to match, every other queer person's. There is a lot of diversity. So don't take something that you hear from one place and being like, oh, this queer person said it, so therefore this must be true. Like in another conversation, sort of develop discretion, develop like the ability to like keep an open mind, to have your thoughts be challenged, have your thoughts be questioned, and yeah, okay, I'll stop there. That's number two, and I would say number three is recognize that like there is a lot of celebration in queerness. I feel like when I get a lot of like cishet folks that want to be better allies, they always want to know about like, okay, what are the struggles? Like what are queer people really struggling with? Like what can I help uplift them with? There is a lot of joy in being queer. There is a lot of resilience in being queer. And when the conversation is always directed around like, okay, how are you struggling? How can I help you? One that centers that cishet person, which is not necessary in that dynamic, and what takes away from the fact that like queer people have very like happy lives also. It's not just that we're like struggling against society every single day. I mean, like that is true, but there is a lot of joy in the community. So don't assume that queer folks are like always, I don't know, like always angry.
Yeah.
There is a lot of like there's also a lot of joy in that angle. There's a lot of like community building that comes from that angle. So yeah, try not to take up that space just because you are trying to help. just listen, be a part of what's happening, ask your questions. But if they are invasive, be prepared to hear, I can't answer that, or I don't want to answer that. I don't want to give you that information. So yeah, I would say those are my top 3 pieces
Wonderful.
of advice. Yeah.
I think that's so simple and so well put forward. Like, I think, so what you've said is, listen to queer voices, listen to queer activists, listen to queer actors and people, everything. Like, listen to queer politicians. That was your first one. Your second one was recognize that queer people are not a monolith. In fact, they are the opposite of a monolith, right? It's a spectrum of inclusivity.
Exactly.
Everybody who wants to like feel included can come and join the space. And third, recognize that there's a lot of celebration in the community. It's, I think, 3 very simple pieces of advice that I think challenge somebody to first question their own assumptions before stepping forward and trying to, like you said, help out or be a savior or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think the most change also comes from cishet folks telling their other cishet people. It's like I see that sometimes people will come into like queer spaces being like, okay, I'm such an ally, I'm here, but then be afraid to advocate for queer issues in their own circles because it's uncomfortable. So I would say a little bit like 3.5 piece of advice is, your change starts at home. So if you are really looking to like further your allyship, have the tough conversations with people that are maybe like transphobic or, homophobic or something. Start there. Start, making the change with your immediate proximity of people. Yeah.
Wonderful. Last question in this formal interview, and it's an easy one. What can you share directly with the audience? Now, this is where you can advertise your Instagram, you can advertise your pop-ups, anything that you're doing, anything you're selling. And if you don't have anything you want to sell, you can tell me either a book, a movie, or a quote that you recently enjoyed, or a song.
Oh, okay. Advertising wise, I'm an extremely like shy, awkward person when it comes to like my art. But yeah, follow me if you want, and if you like my work, and get booked. And a song that I recently loved. Let me look through my Spotify. I'm also currently not like selling like anything. I'm thinking about like doing stickers and things. So maybe y'all will see that in a pop-up in the future. I recently went to Echoes of Earth, and I saw Chinari Wen, who I've been waiting to see for 7 years. So just check out that band. They're like desert rock. They're amazing. And I think I just want to leave this whole interview space also recognizing that, like, even though I am a personal artist, I think that like there is a responsibility to be informed about what's going on in the world. Like, there's a genocide happening in Gaza, and I think that as artists, it is our responsibility to speak up, on that have been suppressing oppressed voices, especially like also being queer, recognizing that there is necessary solidarity that we have to build with other marginalized and oppressed. Yeah, make sure you stay informed, donate, help, share, amplify. Yeah, and I think I'll leave it with thanks for having me here and listening to me. I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much. This is the formal interview concluded. We can speak for a few minutes just to like sort of unwind and decompress from this. I got your contact from that Zany Martian, Neha, who was...
Yeah.
The way I ask people for guests is, who do you admire? I want to speak to that person. So what do you think Neha admires about you?
Oh, I don't know. We've met like 2 times. But I really, really admire her. I think when we first met, actually, so I was getting this tattoo. This is actually her design. And I got on memes, and she was there when the tattoo was happening. And we really like connected on the intentionality. Like there was a whole, I don't know, that like before the tattoo started, and it was lovely. We were exchanging just where the tattoo sort of came from and like how the designs came about, and like each little detail on the tattoo has some sort of meaning, and going back and forth about the intricacies of the tattoo. And yeah, I've admired her work for a very long time. I didn't realize that she was that Zaini Martian when I first met her. And I had already bought like jewelry and stickers and things from her and prints from her a while ago. So and she remembered me. So I don't know. I think she admires how intentional I am as well about like the art that I have on my body and the art that I want to put on people's bodies. And I think that we really connected on intentionality behind your art and the intentionality behind like the tattoo. And we also had like Bobby there, Main Saab. So it was just like friends sort of catching up. So yeah, I don't know. I'm very people admire about me. So I get very shy with that question. But I think she just likes my vibe. I think we had a fun time together. Yeah.
Don't worry, like every guest that I ask this question to, like, what do you think the person who recommended you admires about you? They always get shy about that question because it's designed to be. The question is designed to make you a little uncomfortable. But I hope that this has been a welcoming space for you, this whole interview process. We've been speaking for about 40 minutes.
Yes.
How was this experience for you overall?
It was lovely. I feel like I rambled a lot and there were lots of ums and this and that in between. I am very like frazzled as a human, so I feel like it was fun. I really like the direction that it took. I feel like we covered a lot of the gender journey, the tattoo journey, like even the psychology, which is something that I didn't expect to be focused on here. So yeah, I appreciate how it went. I loved like your questions. I loved your cat popping up like in the background, a lot. And thank you for sharing what everything that you did as well. Just how your thought process was, and like making it sort of personal. I think it's always fun, like getting to know somebody through that experience. So yeah, thank you for feeling like vulnerable to share with me.
So I'm going to stop recording here. You want to say bye to the audience?
Bye, audience.